So New Zealand birds are all quite endangered, unfortunately, because of the introduction of mammals into the country, so things like rats and cats and stoats and possums. Unfortunately, those decimated the species, but they are really important for our native environment. So things like the kiruru are the only bird that are still alive that can swallow the fruit of a lot of our native trees like miro. So they're quite important seed dispersers. They'll spread those seeds throughout the forest. Birds are important for the health of the entire ecosystem as well.
New Zealand just has the weirdest variety of birds, and that's the nature of us being an island, right? And all of these birds have evolved in isolation, so they've come out with some really unique traits, and they pick up areas or services within the ecosystem that maybe mammals that had evolved in those areas would have been doing in other countries. But we do have a lot of birds here that are thriving just as well here in Canterbury. So we have tui on Banks Peninsula. So they were actually a translocated bunch of birds over to the Banks Peninsula, and we're monitoring them to kind of see what happens to them. So hopefully we'll get lots and lots more, and they'll move a little bit more into Christchurch and people can hear them start singing.
Orange-fronted parakeets, for example, used to be quite widespread in the South Island. They're down to only a couple of populations now.
The last stronghold is actually in Arthur's Pass. There's a couple of little valleys there, which is the last place in New Zealand that you can find them. We have an off-display breeding group here, and all the chicks they have get released back into the wild.
We have very few lowland areas that are well protected. They tend to be really small, like Riccarton Bush. It's a beautiful little piece of forest. It's the only piece of original forest left, in Christchurch, but it's about the size of a postage stamp in ecological terms. And we really just have to get more areas protected. The Canterbury Plains are so flat and easily farmed that we've farmed almost every inch of them. We've steamrolled it. The farms have taken over nearly all of it. And so in Canterbury, it's really an issue. We need to leave enough space.
I think it's really important to look after our unique native wildlife, because once they're gone, we're not getting them back. A lot of New Zealand's birds are kind of right on the brink of extinction, so we really need to do all we can to stop that from happening. I think it is a huge loss to our country every time we lose an endangered species. So yeah, I'd love to see all New Zealanders kind of working to protect our native birds.
You can't just always say, we'll look after them as long as it doesn't cost anything. We've got to set some areas aside. These are species that have been here millions of years, and we need to make sure they're still here in 100 years for our children, I think.
Something as simple as having a rat trap in your backyard is really great. Trapping those predators just to give the birds a lot more freedom, I guess. Putting a bell on your cat's collar, just again a simple thing to protect the birds. And obviously if you have the time, getting involved in like maybe a planting project or regeneration of a forest, that kind of thing is really great as well.
Having the community support in helping our species is actually the biggest thing that we need to make a real difference within our environment, because while we can do as much as we can, we actually need everybody to get out and do something and be part of the solution, because it's really going to be a whole country effort to make this work.